Music production is obviously a very technical skill, and to get better at a technical skill, we have to first learn how to do it in the first place. And luckily, we have a lot of resources for this. We can watch a YouTube tutorial, we can read an instructional book, we can sign up for an online class, or we can even go to a music production school. But there's one big problem with all of these options that can truly keep us from getting better at music production. And to understand this problem, we have to first figure out how learning actually takes place. One of the most comprehensive models of learning is based off of a model called Bloom's Taxonomy. So in 1956, Benjamin Bloom and a team of colleagues designed this 6-level pyramid that essentially breaks down the framework for how people learn and acquire skills. So each level of the pyramid shows a certain level of mastery for how you would learn a particular set of skills or information. And then in 2001, this taxonomy was revised to use verbs instead of nouns, so that by using these action words, it's very clear what you need to do in order to reach a certain level of mastery. The skills of music production follow this exact framework as well. Let's take, for instance, the concept of learning about a low-pass filter. Here's what each of the levels of the pyramid would look like in regards to that concept. So the first level, or bottom level, is remembering. And this would just be the process of you knowing what a low pass filter is if someone brought it up in conversation or you saw a photo of it. The next level up, understanding, would be knowing what a low pass filter actually does, that it cuts out the higher frequencies and lets the lower ones pass. The third level up is the applying level. This is where you would actually know how to set up a low-pass filter in your DAW. Further up is the analyzing level, and this would be the ability to know how to manipulate a low-pass filter in terms of its cutoff frequency and slope of the curve. And the second level from the top is evaluating. So this would be knowing when you would want to use a low-pass filter. So for example, if you wanted a vocal to shine more presently, you can use a low-pass filter on other instruments so that the high frequencies from those instruments aren't competing with the high frequency of the vocal. I'm going to stop here for a second. Remember how I talked about in the beginning on how we typically learn music production, whether that's YouTube, books, courses, maybe even school. All of those methods allow us to engage in the first 5 levels of learning. But some of us never engage in the final level of learning, and it happens to be the most important, and that's creating. This is the most important level of the whole framework because this is what allows us to actually get better at the skill. It's not the reading and watching, it's the putting in the reps, the actual act of creating time and time again that allows us to get better at music production. But this level of the framework is also the most difficult. I would much rather watch a YouTube tutorial than open up my DAW and start creating. And the trap is that when I do watch tutorials, I feel like I'm being productive, but I'm really not, because I'm not creating. It's very easy to press the play button, but it's very hard to press the record button and actually create something. But in the past year, the times that I've seen the most growth in my ability to write and produce music is when I sat down to actually put in the reps and create music, not learn about it. And if you were to ask me what I've learned in the past 5 tutorials that I've watched, and I've watched quite a few over the past couple weeks, I would probably only be able to tell you maybe 20% of what I've learned. And that is probably a generous overestimation. The fact of the matter is that we don't remember much of what we see and what we hear, but we learn a lot when we actually just do the work. And a lot of times we come up with our own solutions to whatever problem that we're having. And that sort of leads me to my next point, is that we often know a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. When I was making my song last year called Move On, I remember publishing it, and when I listened to it and thought about it in retrospect, I'm thinking, how the hell did I even make that? Like, if someone would have asked me how I arrived at some of my creative decisions, I don't think I would have an answer for it. But our ego won't give us the credit that we deserve. Our ego always tells us that we're not enough, we don't know enough. And so that sort of fuels our motivation to want to watch endless YouTube tutorials. The only way to challenge our ego is to go against it, to actually create a song, even if we don't feel like it, even if we feel like the time isn't right or that we don't know enough. We have to take our blank DAW canvas and weave it into a finished song, regardless of what it sounds like. One of the pitfalls I often make when I finish a song is I compare it to these commercially produced songs, and then it makes me feel defeated. But I try to remind myself that just by starting and finishing songs, I've manifested something into existence that did not exist prior. And I get it, that might seem a little bit meta or spiritual or whatever, but the point is that regardless of how you view it, I've created something. And that's something that not a lot of people are able to do or have the willpower to do. It's very easy to learn. It's very hard to actually do the work. And so that's what I encourage you to do if you also feel like you're maybe stuck in a rut. If you've ever seen any of my other videos, at the end, I'll usually steer you towards another video that I feel like could be helpful for you in your music production and songwriting journey. But I'm not going to do that today. What I want you to do is, as hard as it might be, is to just go out and create something. It could be a song. It could be part of a song. It could just be a chord progression. I don't care. I want you to X out of YouTube and just go to your DAW and just start to create something, or even go to a guitar and just strum out a few chords. Because all I'll say is that by just doing that, you will learn more just in the act of creating than you will by watching another YouTube tutorial. And so once you do that and you create something, you can come back to this video if you want and put in the comments, I created. You can just leave it at those 2 words, or you can actually write in what you created, because I would be curious to know. And I will do the same. So go out there and let's create something.